From The Australian, here's what's on the front. I'm Claire Harvey. It's Monday, July 23, 2025. There's a revolt brewing in the National Party with elder statesmen and former bitter rivals, Michael McCormack and Barnaby Joyce, joining forces to make life difficult for leader David Littleproud. And it's all about net zero policy. The bosses of giant super fund Host Plus say Labor's plan for a tax on high super balances is half-baked and should be reconsidered. Those exclusives are live now at theaustralian.com.au, along with all the best coverage of federal politics. There's a band of old-school Greens who say their party's become a cult, and it's all about women's rights and transgender policy. Today, how one of the party's co-founders found himself kicked to the curb and why he's vowing revenge.
There's been some people here fighting for the Tasmanian wildernesses for at least a decade.
The Greens used to sound like this.
Well, we're going to fight the damming of the Franklin all the way. Tell him that they do not want their money, their taxes channelled through Canberra to destroy the national heritage for a dam that Tasmania doesn't want and can't pay for.
In 2025, they sound more like this.
Gender-affirming healthcare is life-changing and life-saving.
And it's just horrifying in Gaza right now. Horrific, the worst it's been.
With a minority government, the Greens can deliver dental into Medicare
and strong housing and climate action.
Because trans rights are human rights.
And there's a generation of the party's elders, old-school Greens, activists who chained themselves to bulldozers and pioneered gay rights in Australia, who are finding the new-look Greens a bit challenging.
The Greens made a big mistake. They actually took this action against somebody who knows how to campaign. I know how to campaign, and I'm going to campaign for free speech.
This is Drew Hutton. He's 78 and he's a Greens founding father. He created the Queensland Greens and co-founded the Australian Greens, along with the party's patron saint, Bob Brown, in 1992. Earlier this week, the party expelled Drew Hutton for what it said were transphobic views. But it wasn't about something he said. It was about what commenters on his Facebook page said. Back in 2022, Hutton went on Facebook to support a member of the party who'd been expelled for saying that women should have female-only spaces. Hutton's post was flooded with comments from friends who agreed women's shelters, prisons and changing rooms should be women only. Hutton didn't even agree with them. He just let them have their say.
The Greens then told me that while there was nothing that they could object to in my posts, that I had to delete every one of those comments. Every one had to be deleted. And I said, but I believe in free speech. These are legitimate points that these people are making. They're not being defamatory. They're not being abusive. Why should I delete them? And I refused. So they said, well, you're suspended. You're suspended until you delete those comments.
Hutton refused. Now he's out.
Their motivation, I believe, was if we can do it to Drew Hutton, we can do it to anybody. So keep your head down, the rest of you who think there's such a thing as sex-based rights and not gender identity, because if you put your head up, the same thing's going to happen to you.
Jamie Walker's an associate editor with The Australian and he's based in Queensland, where the Greens have had a fascinating rise and then fall. They had 3 seats in federal parliament until the most recent election. Now they've just got 1. But under the surface of the Greens, there are really interesting currents and cross currents. Jamie, there's 2 different types of Greens. Can you explain for me what they are?
Yeah, well, traditionally they used to talk about the watermelon Greens, red on the inside, green on the outside. That is a very deep Marxist underpinning. And what they called the deep Greens, and that was people like Bob Brown who were anchored in the environmental movement. But what you're seeing play out in Queensland at the moment and nationally is a more fundamental split within the Greens. It's a generational divide, and it's what Mr. Hutton has termed a transgender and queer cult that has overtaken the Greens. I stress they're his words, not mine. And that clique, that power group, he alleges, has taken control of the party organs, the administrative committees, the management committees, and more importantly, the disciplinary committees right around the country. And it's chasing out anybody who won't toe the party line on transgender issues.
I had a look at the Greens policy platform, Jamie, and what it says is that the Greens want trans and gender diverse young people to have the freedom and support to affirm their gender. Any medical interventions involved in this process should be guided foremost by the young person with the advice and support of medical specialists. Now, what is missing from that is causing a difference of opinion among some of these older Greens like Drew Hutton?
I think one thing that's notably missing is the term parent. There is no mention about parental consent. There is no definition either of what a young person is. I mean, are they talking about teenagers? Are they talking about people in their early 20s? Now, presumably anyone over 18, of course, has a right to do what they see fit. However, when you're talking about teenagers, about the impact of puberty blockers and medical intervention on young people that can't be reversed is an issue of great concern. Now, Drew Hutton's position, and I guess the position of many people of his ilk in the Greens, isn't necessarily dogmatic on this. It's simply, hey, we need to have a discussion about this, and our policy platform needs to be informed about this discussion.
Equal rights for gay and queer people are totemic for the Greens. This was one of the issues that got them their first seats in any parliament. Bob Brown, the former federal leader, was the first leader of any party to be openly gay, the first federal MP to be openly gay. Why is this different, Jamie? Why is someone like Drew Hutton now being forced out, given that he has a heritage of campaigning so hard for the rights of people in this community?
Yeah, well, I think Drew Hutton's position is that to him, it's actually not about so much the issue of transgender rights, which he agrees with. He says a transgender person should have no more or no less rights than any adult Australian. But he sees this as an issue of free speech. Now, he has some concerns about the Green platform. He thinks it should be more nuanced. And he'd like those concerns addressed, or he'd like to be able to raise it in party forums. Instead, he's thrown out of the party. He also is very angry about being denied what he sees as due process. Now, at no point was he allowed to confront or challenge directly the people who made the accusations against him, who laid the complaints against him. And this is something that we're finding is a very common theme as we talk to other people who've been expelled. There's more than 30 of them, and they all tell a common story. The other thing that's very interesting is that most of the people being expelled are women.
Yeah, that is interesting, and it goes hand in hand with the probably global trend of it being women speaking the loudest about their concerns about encroachment on women-only spaces, for example. J.K. Rowling, the author, Martina Navratilova, the athlete, have been very forthright in saying that something that must be preserved as more people's rights are recognised is the right for biological women to have spaces, whether it's prisons or breastfeeding rooms or schools, that are just for women. Is that something that Drew Hutton and the other Greens that you've spoken to are passionate about? Is it about safe spaces for them, Jamie?
Absolutely, yeah. They are saying the platform should be revisited. I mean, and it's not unreasonable. When they attempt to raise these issues, they're not only held down, and they say they are held down, and it's by what Drew Hutton calls this cult, they are then facing punitive action. They are suspended and then expelled. You see some of the language of these complaints. They're almost Stalinist. They're expecting people to make pledges that I'm actually being genuine with you, and all this sort of stuff, because the people making the complaints, don't believe that their heart is in what they're saying.
This is the great trope of kind of progressive or left-wing thought, isn't it? That just like the revolution in Russia, which was all about equality and the working class, that it drifts slowly towards totalitarianism of either thought or deed, or both. That everyone has to have the same opinion.
Well, exactly. And this is part of the criticism that is coming out of this. Here is a party that is founded in a left-wing tradition, is founded in tolerance, is founded in raising up, the rights of gay people, and you mentioned, Bob Brown's extraordinary life story. That's, this is part of the tradition of the Greens. And yet what is now happening? Intolerance is being wielded as a weapon against some of the very people who founded the party. It's an extraordinary outcome. Drew Hutton says, I don't recognise the party that I founded anymore.
Coming up, should the oldies just hand the Greens over to a fresh new set of future leaders?
It is not bigoted to say a girl or a woman should not have to compete in a sporting team against a biological male. There is nothing bigoted about that. We're going to put our spear in the ground. And if organisations like the Greens think that that's something that they've got to snuff out, then watch out. They're going to get hit by a freight train.
Is there an element of this, Jamie, where do you think the old people, have to stand back and accept that what is now progressive thought has left them behind? The ideas that the Greens have advocated have always been on the radical fringe before they become the mainstream, including, for example, marriage equality. That was a wild idea in the early 1980s. Now it's completely mainstream.
Yeah, maybe. I think, though, that, some of the old campaigners are making the point, where are the results on the board for the new generation? I mean, they had a breakthrough result in Brisbane at the 2022 election where they had 3 MPs elected. And what happened in May? They lost 2 of those seats. They lost the seat of Adam Bandt, their leader in Melbourne. And, when you see the Greens trying to spin that, oh, look, our primary vote actually went up, well, you kind of go, be real, mate. This is a party that went backwards at an enormous rate of knots at the last election, and it suggests that the public are not buying what they're selling.
Jamie Walker is The Australian's associate editor. You can check out his reporting and a piece Drew Hutton wrote for The Australian right now at theaustralian.com.au.